Hey there, Blazer fans, and welcome to episode 47 of the Dragon's Den, a podcast for those that bleed green and gold. I'm glad to be back with another great episode today. A former UAB football player, defensive lineman from 2007 to 2010, Mr. Bryant Turner Jr. Bryant is now in the real estate business in Birmingham after many years of playing in the Canadian Football League, and we had some great stories to share. So I won't keep you waiting. Let's get into the episode. All right, Blazer fans, I've got my guest here for episode 47 of the Dragon's Den, a former defensive lineman for the UAB football team from 2007 to 2010, Mr. Bryant Turner Jr. Bryant, how you doing today?
Good, man. How you doing? I appreciate you having me on.
I'm doing great, man. I'm loving to have you on, and I'm happy to get the podcast going again. And it's great to see a familiar face. Been a while since we've seen you on the gridiron, but I know you're doing pretty well in the Birmingham area. But I can't wait to get to some questions with you.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's good to be with another true Blazer fan.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you my listeners some backstory here. You came to UAB from Daphne High School. You're from the Mobile, Daphne area. You were named honorable mention All State and helped lead Daphne to the state championship. What schools were looking at you coming out of high school? What made you choose UAB? Yeah, just go ahead.
Pretty much, I guess coming out of high school, every school in Conference USA was kind of, definitely giving me a shot. It was weird because I was thinking Clemson is where I was going. I was in, a lot of communication with them, letters every day, phone calls every night, and then it comes to signing day and they know where to be found.
Wow.
Um, I I was also thinking about it came down to UAB or Central Florida. Um, Ultimately, after discussions with my dad, we basically chose UAB. He played a big part in where I ended up going to school at.
Okay. Well, you also competed in the shot put for Daphne High School's track and field
Yeah.
team. Did you like track and field? Did you consider doing it at the college level at all?
Not really. I mean, I did like it. Don't get me wrong. I love track and field. And when I was in high school, we actually had one of our high school coaches that coached track and field also, which he would basically recruit players to just come over and do some stuff. He recruited me to come over and throw shot put and discus, and I actually began to like it a lot. Where I remember he gave me a video to watch because in football, I guess at Daphne High School we have about 20 coaches. I feel like we had plenty of staff. In track, I think it was two.
Wow.
So it's kind of hard for them to be everywhere at once. So I remember him giving me a video to watch of how to throw the shot put. Well, I watched that video and actually practiced the things the guy was talking about. And it was a video from like the 70s, man. It was an old school one. It was like, all right, let me go home and find a VCR so I can watch this thing. And end up doing good. I can't remember what I finished at state, maybe second, I believe. End up going to the Junior Olympics throwing shot put also. So that was pretty cool. But I liked it. It was a way for our football teammates to get out of a football workout and go do something else that was fun. So that's why, a couple of us ended up doing the track and field.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So fast forward to UAB, you redshirted your first season at UAB in 2006. What is life like as a redshirt player, and what was that first year like for you?
Um, it was pretty cool, man. I love downtown Birmingham. I love my teammates. I had a roommate called Mike Jones. He was from or named Mike Jones. He was from Nashville, Tennessee. We were roommates throughout the whole time we were at UAB. Still really good friends today. But we were a pretty close team from the beginning. We didn't win a lot of games, but we had a lot of fun. So and it was one of those teams like, all right, we didn't get the win, but everybody's going to hang out tonight somewhere together. So very close knit team. That first year, it was a bit of a struggle, coming from Daphne High School. It was completely different coming to UAB. At Daphne High School, we went to two state championships. It was all about football. We had top-notch facilities, top-notch coaches. You come to UAB and it was a little different because we had some great players, but it was more of a party, if you can say, you know, and if I'm just being honest, a lot
Yeah.
of focus wasn't too much on the field. It was like, all right, we gave it our best. And, you kind of just starting out. And honestly, I thought, hey, I don't think I'm going to fit in here. I was red-shirted, and I was actually looking for other places to go to play football. Just one thing, and I don't want to dog anybody. I just want to be honest on this podcast. But, coming from Daphne High School, it was always the championship was our goal. One of my first team meetings at UAB, it was like, hey, we got to win 6 games, we can get to a bowl game. And, immediately I'm like, if that's the goal, this ain't the place for me. Well, anyway, long story short, kind of went through the first year, just being a redshirt freshman, working out, doing my part at practice and watching the games, basically, which is honestly what I wanted to do a little bit. I wanted to develop a little bit more to get on the field so I can try to be a dominant player as soon as I step foot. Coming out of high school, I didn't know if I was that person or not, and wanted to spend more time in the weight room. And I got a chance to do that.
Well, that was also the last year of Coach Watson Brown. And
right.
In 2007, Neil Callaway was brought in as the new head coach. What were your thoughts on Coach Brown, and what was the atmosphere like during the coaching change?
So it was a huge difference. It was Coach Brown, he's more of you would say, players coach. I didn't feel like anyone hated Coach Brown at all. He kind of let the players, have fun for the most part, as long as, business was taken care of. And it was a complete like 180 with Neil Callaway. I don't know if Neil Callaway will ever be considered a player's coach. You know what I mean? He just was a guy that was all about business. And I was kind of, I was excited about it because that was what I knew. And that's where I came from in high school. And I was like, okay, this is kind of what I've been looking for. And that's what changed when I heard about who we're getting. I'm like, okay, this great guy coming from Georgia, which I didn't know too much about him. But anyway, I think he was an offensive coordinator coming from there. Came over to UAB, and I was excited, and it was a big change. The first big change was they brought in a new strength coach from Bama, who I think Coach Martin, I think Steve Martin, had been at Bama for 15, 20 years, I think. He was, I think, in the assistant role there as a strength coach. And, I was excited about that. I'm like, okay, we got Georgia coming in. We got a Bama guy coming in. It's going to be a big deal. And it was like, it became a military school at that point. It was very strict. They got rid of a lot of players. It was just, they had some strict rules and you had to follow them. And if you didn't follow them, you were gone. And it wasn't any, it was kind of a zero tolerance type thing. We were losing players left and right, weeding out a lot of players. And, I wished and hoped for the best. I feel like we was one of the hardest working teams in the nation that year. I feel like our record did not show that, which, started making you kind of question a little bit of everything at that point. But, that was kind of the change between Brown and Callaway.
2007, UAB went 2-10. 2008, you guys went 4-8. In 2009, UAB was even closer, to making a bowl game, but you just missed out going 5-7.
Right.
You did have a couple of notable wins that season. You guys brought the Battle of the Bones trophy back home with a win at Memphis, 31-21, and you also got the first ever win over Southern Miss, 30-17, on Hiram Atwater's game-winning pick six. What were those games like for you?
It was a struggle, man. Those few years of that 2-8 season, and you it's wishful thinking all the way through of, all right, we can do this. Then you get to that point where you're not bowl eligible, and it's like, okay, then it becomes like you see who are teammates and you see who's not teammates, because it become one of those things of, all right, I'm just worried about me and getting my stats up. So people kind of stop following the curriculum and kind of do their own thing to get more tackles, to get more catches and things of that sort. So anyway, that was, it was kind of like a lot of up and down. It definitely, again, we were a fun team. We had a lot of fun. We were very close. I'm still very close to a lot of my teammates to this day. So one thing that I did gain was definitely relationships. Beating Southern Miss was a big deal because one of those years, I can't remember the year, but we got killed by in one year. I don't even want to bring.
Pretty sure that was your sophomore year. I looked at that and I was like, yeah, I'm not touching that game.
Yeah, that was, it was bad. And I remember before the game, the way, I described to you earlier of where we come from, my high school and the background, the way we were preparing for that game, the way we were right before the game in the locker room, I knew it was going to be bad. Like, this is not going to be good. It was probably one of the worst things I had seen of how guys, were acting before the game. And sure enough, I unfortunately was right, during that game. But I think that was the last year that they beat UAB for a while. I don't,
Yeah.
I haven't kept up with it, but after that bad game we had against them, I want to say UAB beat Southern Miss maybe 3 or 4 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even more.
Almost certain. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was definitely some good and bad during that time. The most positive thing I can say during that time is we were a very close team. Um, Great friendships were developed during that time.
Okay. Well, your senior season started with a heartbreaker and a 1 point loss to Florida Atlantic, but 2 weeks later, you guys mounted a huge comeback to win over Troy on a Hail Mary from Brian Ellis to Jackie Williams. What
Mhm.
did it mean? What did that win mean to you guys? And what was it like going up against Troy every year?
Um, I love Troy. I love competing against them. Normally, we knew a lot of people on that team.
Mm-hmm.
I've always kind of been envious of Troy up until recently, but I remember in high school, I played in a junior all-star game, and I think they did a junior all-star game for a few years while I was in high school. It was at Troy, and they had just got the movie gallery stadium, and it was super nice. I'm like, man,
Mm-hmm.
this would be amazing. I remember thinking like that'd be amazing if UAB get this, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
of course, we got something so much better now. We definitely, proud of that. But I always felt like Troy was that team that we wanted to kind of be like or beat, you know what I mean? Just to kind of solidify I feel like an in-state rivalry. So it was always fun. I had a frat brother who's a friend who played for there. It was fun playing against him. He actually went on to play in the NFL for 10 or 11 seasons, I think. But yeah, I like that matchup. Hopefully that'll come back sooner or later. But and I'm trying to think of the question. Did I answer all of your questions? Did you have more?
What was the win like for you guys in that Hail Mary win?
It was a big deal. So I had a picture for a long time. I don't know where it is now of basically the just like the huddle before that, long touchdown to win the game, because it came down to the last second basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it was so much, they say a picture say 1,000 words. That was one of those pictures that captured everything. It captured the intensity of the game, it captured the players, it captured the celebration, it captured everything, and it was the beginning of the drive, basically. Um, it's somewhere at my house, but it was a really cool photo. Actually, a frat brother of mine, he was on the sideline, and he was a photographer for the school at the time, and he took the picture. But that was a big deal. It just kind of showed some hope in not only the program, but also the team that under Callaway had just been working so hard without seeing all of the results.
Yeah. Well, in the
Yeah.
remaining games, UAB saw plenty of ups and downs, narrow losses at Tennessee in double overtime by 3, Mississippi State by 5, and Rice by 5. But you got wins over Southern Miss in double overtime at their place, 15-point win over UTEP, and you kept the Battle of the Bones trophy at home with a win over Memphis. Looking back, what do you remember most about your final season with UAB, and what was going through your mind as your college career came to an end?
Um, just going through the game, starting off with that the Battle of the Bones. I remember being the smart guy and being so excited and being the senior to run off the sideline to go get the Battle of the Bones. And them things are heavy. It was they were in the end zone, and it was last play of the game. We had one, and I took off running over there to bring back to the team. And I remember thinking halfway through, like, this is such a bad idea. It was like the heaviest trophy I've ever lifted in my life. And luckily another teammate came and helped, and we got it over. But that was a big deal. The Battle of the Bones were a big deal. It kind of going back, the other night I was at Memphis versus UAB basketball game, which was super exciting. UAB basketball, men basketball pulled it off. But that was a great rivalry too. It was always been such a big deal to us Blazers. Even and that's basketball and football. I remember one of the best memories that being at UAB was the camp out before the Memphis basketball game with all the football players, all the athletes, all the students, kind of camping out, playing catch, playing football late, with everybody. It was really fun, a really fun atmosphere. So that's a big deal. That was a big deal to us. The Tennessee game, that was one I remember. Callaway, I told you, it was run like a military school.
Yeah.
So we had silent breakfast. We couldn't talk. And I remember we show up to breakfast that morning before the game, and there's newspaper articles at everybody's tables. It's about 20, 30 tables, 7 people so sitting at each table. And it was like another cupcake game. It had like pictures of cupcakes on it. It was like front page of the Tennessee, whatever newspaper it was. And he was like, "This is what they think of y'all." It's probably the best speech he's ever gave, just like, this is what they think of y'all. They're expecting this to be a cakewalk. It was their home opener game. I think 110,000 sold out. My first time there at the stadium, period, and not only to play in it, but it was huge. Everybody's wearing orange, and we go into double overtime with them, and I felt sorry for the reason we lost that game. And this guy that, we missed some kicks. I'll say that. And it's definitely not one player. Unfortunately, that stat stood out, strong, and that's what everybody rallied against, but anyway, it was a great atmosphere. We had them right where we wanted. I feel like it was definitely motivation by the cupcake, and this is going to be an easy game. Let's just get through it and move on for the rest of the season. And if I remember correctly, they were expecting a lot of that out of that team that year, who I think didn't do good. Everybody's in Alabama always super happy when Tennessee people do bad.
Yeah.
So that was such a big deal, but that was a great game. I think another one you mentioned was South Carolina. South Carolina was probably one of my favorite places to play other than Florida State. South Carolina was so loud. I don't know if it's because, I think their stadium sit less people than other stadiums, bigger stadiums we didn't play it in. But I don't know if it's the way it's shaped or what happened that night or whatever. But the you can feel the noise on the field, like you can feel it in your body, feel it in your bones. It was amazing. It was one of those kind of cool nights where it was like foggy, so it was kind of like a football Friday Night Lights type thing. So that was a big deal, and that was a really good game too. I personally was playing against a teammate that I didn't know it at the time, but a teammate that I played with in Canada and against in Canada. Justin Sorensen was the center for South Carolina when we were playing them, and he was my center at Winnipeg for a couple of years. And we played against each other when I went to another team. So that was pretty cool too. But yeah, those are highlights that definitely stick out in my mind. Florida State was a game. We were up 10-3 at half, if I remember, against Florida State. And it was supposed to be another cupcake game for them. Our safety, Will Dunbar. I don't know if this is good or bad for a stat for the defense, being a defensive lineman, but I think he had 20-some tackles, if I'm not mistaken, that game, and an interception. So it was we had some players on the team. It's just putting everything together. But that was another great game. I remember being completely silent in the locker room at halftime because we were up, and honestly we were all shocked. But I think everybody was thinking, please, let's not find a way to mess this up. You know what I mean? It was the most focused I've ever seen the locker room at a halftime while playing at UAB.
So you kind of mentioned a few of them. Over the course of your time at UAB, you played at the following Power Five schools: Michigan State, Florida State, South Carolina, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Mississippi State twice.
Right.
What was it like in these big time environments for the whole team? You kind of talked about how some of the environments before the game, the lead up to it. What was it like on the field amongst the team, in the locker room before or, even after the games? What was it like?
I don't know. It was a cool atmosphere. You play at these legendary stadiums with hundreds of years or however many years of, history. I think that was the really cool part because you can feel the history. UAB, I think if I'm not mistaken, was somewhere in the early 90s is when they officially kind of got rolling. We haven't really established what a lot of these other schools have been rolling for, 70, 80 years or so.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I think that was the cool part as a player is like playing in these stadiums with so much history. You know, even it's pretty cool to do the which I think we're going to get to later, but to do the color analyst now for UAB football. You get to travel to the games and go with the teams. And we was in Georgia, you know, and LSU, and you see them on TV and, you know, they look big, but you get in the stadiums, it's like, man, it's so much history in these stadiums. And these stadiums aren't as new as you think they are. Some of
Yeah.
them, you know, so it's old black and white pictures on the walls, you know, in some of the rooms. And it's, you know, it's pretty cool to just be in that atmosphere, you know, of things you've heard about and stuff you've seen on TV, and actually see like, okay, these people were sitting here watching this game. So that was pretty cool as a player, and it's cool as a color analyst guy still getting to go into these stadiums.
Well, after UAB, you went on to play in the Canadian Football League for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the BC Lions for 7 years. You were named team captain for the Blue Bombers in 2013. What was the CFL like?
I love the CFL personally. Just the way I ended up there, I came out during the lockout year of the NFL. It was that when they didn't, you know, the players and the owners didn't have a negotiation, they didn't come to negotiation, so it was a lockout. So you either got drafted and it was no communication afterwards. So it was a lot of people just sitting around waiting to see what was going to happen. Me personally, I um I was just thinking about, hey, I want to find a job, you know. I don't want to go back to my parents' house. Nothing against my parents. Just like, you know, I'm finished with college. I've graduated. It's time for me to become a man. And the CFL came calling. I didn't know nothing at all about the Canadian Football League. You know, I didn't get drafted. And it was right at that period where I got a call from Winnipeg wanting to do a workout. And I remember researching. The first thing I do is Google Winnipeg. And the first article said one of the coldest cities in the world. And me being a sheltered, you know, not not like just not knowing anything about Canada. I'm literally thinking like, are they living in igloos up there? What is going on up there? You know what I mean? Like I had no idea. I had never, you know, really researched anything in Canada. Never watched the CFL. I may have seen like a highlight or two on, you know, ESPN Top 10 or something like that, but that's really it. So anyway, um, I go up there. I remember coming in and it was just terrible weather. You know, it was raining. It was freezing cold. The plane actually sounded like it had to like speed up to land. It was that type of windiness, you know, where we were rocking until we hit the ground. And I'm thinking like, Lord, this what am I getting myself into? You know, this is gonna be terrible for the, you know, as long as I'm here, I guess. But that was just a bad day, basically. I remember we was trying to put our luggage in this truck so we can go to the hotel, and the wind was blowing the luggage down the street. It was that bad, you know. So I'm, you know, me still being sheltered, thinking like this is terrible, you know, bad idea, whatever. Anyway, long story short, it ended up being like such a great experience. Canadian people are some of the best people in the world, the nicest people. You know, that's the stereotype that Canadians have, and it's probably the truest stereotype you'll ever hear. They're just the most genuine, nice people you ever meet. Um, the being playing in Winnipeg is like playing for the Green Bay Packers. It's a city-owned team. It's the thing to do. When it's game night, that's what everybody's focused on. Everybody's wearing their team color, and that's where everybody's going for that night. Canada have about 37 million people in the country. California have 40 million people, to show you how many people is up there. It's a, and you know, I think it's a good thing because they would sell out games in Winnipeg. I want to say roughly around 45, 50,000. And we would technically almost sell out every game when I was up there. And it was, you know, whether we were going to the championship or not, people were showing up. So it was a really good atmosphere. They have a bomber discount basically everywhere you go. You know, McDonald's will give you something for free. It's just, you know, just it was a really cool city, really cool atmosphere. They live for the summertime, which is basically the, you know, football season. They basically it's dark at like 4 p.m. in the winter. You know, it's snow everywhere. So they everywhere you can find a patio, you got somebody on it. You know, for restaurants and all that different stuff. So it's a really cool city. Um, so that was the experience at Winnipeg. I played there 5 years, 2 years at BC and Vancouver. And Vancouver is a super nice city. I love Vancouver when I was in Winnipeg just by, you know, going there and playing games. And I was always thinking like, all right, if I ever get a chance, it's probably be the place. which had a lot to do with me going there, after I was released from Winnipeg. But it was more, so much to do in Vancouver that their attendance wasn't great. It was just, I remember we were eating, me and a teammate was eating at around the corner from the stadium, downtown, and the girl was like, "Where do y'all play our waiter?" And it's like, and you can almost
Man.
do it, it's right there. So it was just a different atmosphere. But anyway, I enjoyed it. I really love playing in Canada. A lot of close friends still from Canada today.
You also briefly played with another former Blazer, kicker Ty Long, in
Yeah.
your last year at BC. What was it like playing with Ty?
It started out weird, and let me tell you why. I had Ty Long on there, and I had Swayze Waters.
So yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, so both of my well, because me and Ty didn't play together in
Mm-hmm.
UAB,
Yeah.
we knew each other, but we never played together. Anyway, so my old kicker, Swayze Waters, was there too, and they were competing against each other while we was in BC. So it's kind of awkward, like because you're kind of going for both. I felt like I was closer to Swayze because we played a few years together at UAB.
Mhm.
But of course I'm like the best man win. It was really like sad because I used to have to watch them compete, they were truly competing, and I remember they end up signing both and later on release Swayze, and we had went to a chapel type thing after practice, and then he went up to see the coach and came down. He's like, I just got released. I just couldn't believe it, like pain, But anyway, it was cool. Ty did a really good job. Um, while we were playing in BC, and it was cool to play with him. And Ty's actually a client of mine now in real estate, so we still got a really good relationship and play golf together every now and then. But yeah, it was good. It was good to have another Blazer on the team.
Very cool.
Mm.
You kind of mentioned, the whole looking back over your career at UAB. What is one thing that you wish you could go back and tell yourself when you first started at UAB?
I would now. I guess I would have like the connections I made in the city now, I wish I would have made those earlier, which, it probably was the last thing on my mind as a college student athlete. But just it's so many good people in Birmingham in the business world that do a lot for UAB. And I wish I would have took advantage of those relationships. I see them now and I see players there now. And I still honestly feel like guys aren't taking advantage of what they have at their disposal. So that's probably one of my, I guess, biggest regrets is just not taking advantage of relationships when I could have.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you like about Birmingham to come back after pro football?
Well, her name is Morgan Turner.
That's a good response.
Yeah. Started off as Morgan Haney, but she so me and my current wife started dating when we were at UAB. She played soccer there. And so we were, yeah, when I went up there, we were still dating. I think we ended up getting married after my second year in the CFL. But yeah, so she's from Sylacauga originally, which is, about an hour out from Birmingham,
Mm-hmm.
little small town. And yeah, we that was the main reason. We ended up getting engaged. I tried to talk her into moving down because I'm from Daphne originally, Mobile area, and I wanted to move. My goal in life was always to live by the beach in Gulf Shores area, and that was where I wanted to go. Tried talking to her, but it ended up not working out. So we stayed in Birmingham, and for years I was just working out in the off season and being a stay-at-home dad at the time, and she was working in Sylacauga. She had her first job out of college was teaching in Sylacauga and coaching soccer. So we found a middle ground to my gym in Hoover and her job in Sylacauga, and that's how we ended up in Chelsea, Alabama.
Okay.
Yep.
So, how is life now, and what are you up to?
So right now, selling real estate with ARC Realty, which I was talking to a marketing guy today. ARC stands for a relationship company, but we sell real estate. Um, the main reason I ended up at ARC, and I was telling you about those relationships I wish I would have took advantage of. So when my strength coach from high school, Daphne High School, got the job at UAB with Coach Clark as a strength coach. He's still there now under Coach Dilfer. But in the off season, for the last, I think, 2 years of my CFL career, I was working out with him. And I had got my real estate license, and he was one of the guys. Everybody just kept saying, "You need to go holler at Tommy Brigham. You need to go holler at Tommy Brigham." And Tommy Brigham has done a lot for UAB football in general. His son currently coaches the running backs. But I went to meet with him, and I don't know if you ever met Tommy, but he can talk you into anything. You know what I mean? Like, it don't matter. He should have been a coach, is what he should have been. Very persuasive guy, but really good guy, honestly. Been a great mentor to me since I've met him. And that's how I ended up with art, selling real estate, and things have been going really good. I currently broker our Chelsea office right now and also still sell real estate. But that's kind of what I'm doing now. I've been here since I retired. I came straight from football to ARC. Very end of 2016 is when I started. I think it was December. Um, anyway, trying to think. I'm trying to make sure I answered your question. I think everything you have. Other than that, my wife's a school teacher. We live in Chelsea. We have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, two little girls, and we have one little boy who's 3.5 months. So he'll be 4 months on the 16th.
That's awesome.
So that's where we are now. Finally got a boy, but me and my wife both athletes. Like, we thought we would have boys, nothing but boys, and got two girls. You should have seen us at the second gender reveal. We probably the saddest people there. but super excited about our family, man. We got two beautiful daughters, great healthy son who I'm sure will be a great athlete one day. So yeah, man, that's what I'm doing now, and can't complain at all, man.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So just I guess a work question here. Any advice for the Birmingham natives in the housing market?
Yeah. First advice is give me a call. Let me help you buy or sell your house. I think I work, well, I don't think, I actually know I work for the best company in Birmingham because we have the #1 market share in Birmingham and built the most homes. Not just in Birmingham, but we also have an office in Huntsville and the biggest office in Montgomery. So, and it's something Tommy Brigham started. Going back to Tommy real quick, I kind of bragged on him a little bit. Tommy used to have the #1. He used to be owner of the #1 real estate company in Birmingham. Then he sold it. Had a 3-year non-compete, and now his company he started 11 years ago is now the #1 company in Birmingham that beat his old company.
Wow.
So I'm definitely under great leadership here. But yeah, so I would say #1, definitely give me a call. And I'm kind of biased, but I'm not. I feel like I'm a great realtor, and I feel like I can definitely help people with their needs because we are more than realtors. We wear many caps. We're counselors. We're psychiatrists. We're financial advisors. We help our clients with everything. And ARC, the ARC right here, actually stands for a relationship company. So we really build relationships. Over half of my clients are probably invited to my kids' birthday parties normally. So just to show you how close we get. However, just gets more advice than that, I would say, don't wait to call a realtor. A lot of people will try to do a lot of things by themselves. They'll say, "Hey, I'm gonna flip a house," and they flip the house and then call the realtor like, "Hey, I want to sell it for this much." Well, it's not going. You're not going to get that much, and you're probably a good bit off from what you're actually going to get. And it's situations like this. Like, man, I wish you would have called me at the beginning. So whenever you have the thought cross your mind about buying, selling, investing, renovating, please don't hesitate to call a realtor. Me preferably, but anybody, just to get advice, because the advice is free. And I don't know if people think they're gonna, like, as soon as I make this call, I got to spend some money. Well, no, you don't. Like, please, the advice is free. So that would probably be my best advice towards anybody that's looking to buy, sell, invest, whatever you're looking to do. Give us a call and just tell us what your plan is. Let us make sure you're steered in the right way, and then see if we can help you with your whatever the situation is.
I'll give you a free plug here. You got how can my listeners reach out to you? Either social, just to get to know you as a former Blazer, or professionally.
All right, so anything, my number is public everywhere. It's 251-243-5259. You can see it on Facebook, any website you go on, that's my number. I am Blitz_Turner on Instagram, Bryant Turner Jr. on Facebook. So definitely look me up. I'm very easy to find. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Brian, I got a couple more questions for you. I do
Okay.
actually have one question I meant to ask you a little while ago. I guess I forgot to put it in my list of questions here, but you mentioned to me off the air that you've been the color analyst for UAB football on the radio. You're going into your third year. How's that been with being alongside David Crane and calling the football games?
Well, it's challenging. I got the call to do it, and the first thing I thought is, man, this would be great for real estate. Just get my name out more. So that's just my honest first thought, and not didn't think of like how challenging that job is. But you think about it, you're watching something and you're describing it to people that are not watching it. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
really, it's a lot of thoughts that go through your head so you can communicate what you're trying to say. And you only have a short period of time to do it these days as a color analyst because people are so fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
You can be talking about one play that happened 3 plays ago. So that's one of the things that kind of shocked me with it, but it's a really fun job. Again, get to travel with the team. So you go to these stadiums, and that part is really cool. David Crane is probably one of the best guys, of an announcer or play caller that you'll probably find. So we make it so easy to just kind of either lead me in or back me up when I say something or something like that. So that part is really easy because of the guy I work with. He's so phenomenal and been doing it for a long time. I think he started when I was a freshman, I believe. So 2006, I think he's been doing it since then. So just very well experienced and very good at his job. So that makes my job so much easier. So less stuttering, I think. But so yeah, working with David Crane is great. Also have Landon Roberts on the sideline who has, tremendous amount of experience being on the radio. He got the radio voice, his pods are great. So, I feel like I'm learning from two amazing people, and I'm enjoying being at the bottom of that totem pole, getting to trying to, definitely trying to get better year in, year out. And we actually do things to challenge ourselves to make us better too at our job. So that was something that came with it also. But that's a job I really love doing also, and I'm glad that they contacted me or asked me to do it.
I'm happy for you, man. It's awesome. I really love David Crane is best in the business in my opinion, and to have you alongside is even better because I love hearing from the former players and getting your on field experience and seeing kind of what the players might be experiencing in the huddle. And so it was definitely a joy to hear that you were joining the team. So I'm happy for you, man. But before you go, I got a fast 5 questions for you. Just reel it off. The first thing that's off the top of your head.
Okay.
Lighthearted questions here. Okay.
All right.
All right. Best and worst road trip location during your time at UAB. Go.
I'll say the best was definitely South Carolina game. I
Okay.
just thought the atmosphere was amazing that night we played them. That could be the lowest on somebody else's list, but definitely best for mine. Worst is probably that time we went to Southern Miss and got blew out. That was by far look, just a little funny personal thing. I remember like this game is going terrible, and I remember looking back in the stands and I saw my dad get up and like walk out.
Ouch.
And
Yikes.
and I was like, oh my God, that was such a hard feeling. I thought he was
Wow.
gone. Like, I thought he was just done. And I was shocked. It kind of made me happy when I came out of the locker room and seen him standing there waiting on me to get on the bus. I'm like, Lord, thank you. But yeah, that was probably the worst experience, I've had in LA UAB.
All right. Number 2, the coach or coaches, if you want to, that had the
Yeah.
biggest impact on you.
Man, that's a tough one. It's so many. Just right off the top of my head, Richard Harris is a coach I had in the CFL. He was
Mhm.
my rookie year when I first got there. He was great. Like when I got to Winnipeg, we were coming on the field for the first, practice, of the season. And I remember the crowd gave him a standing ovation. He was just a defensive line coach. They didn't even do that for the head coach. So he was just that guy. He was 5th pick overall in the NFL draft out of Grambling. back in the day.
Wow.
Just a really good defensive line player, lineman. But he was a very special coach, man. Could just connect to anybody. Just special in my heart. Just did just a really good coach. Steve Savarese was a head coach. That was one of my favorite head coaches I've been under, and he was in my high school, at Daphne High School. Wayne Davis is a coach that I really have a close personal relationship to this day. I just drove home back to Daphne a few weeks ago to see him just because I hadn't seen him in a while and check on him and stuff like that. So we still have a close relationship. And he was my defensive line coach in high school. But I'm gonna just leave it at those three right now. But it's plenty more I can name for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 3, funniest teammate from your time at UAB.
Oh, that's a good one. Funniest teammate from my time at UAB. Man, I thought my roommate still is funny. Mike Jones, he's been my roommate since I was at UAB. Like we came in day one and left at the last day together. And still very close, but he was pretty funny. We kind of get each other, what's the word, like sense of humor a lot. I guess being roommates for so long, things get funnier and funnier. But he was a pretty funny guy and still is to this day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 4, hardest hitting player you ever went up against, college or pro, or high school maybe,
See, and this is a difficult question with my position because I play D line, and
Mm-hmm.
honestly, like D line, you're 2 inches apart.
Yeah.
Hard, it's hard to say. I would personally say I was probably one of the hardest hitting 2 inches apart. But you got guys that would just fly in and not stop their feet and run through a tackle. I would say not even against, but played with Hiram Atwater
Mm.
at UAB. Probably was one of the hardest hitting people I've ever seen on the field, where he can get up his speed like quickly, like the fastest accelerating person I've seen, and he could run through a tackle without stopping his feet at all. He just never slowed down. And I want to say Hiram actually gave himself 2 concussions, if I'm not
God.
mistaken. Yeah, he was that type of player that just did not have a protective switch in his body, and he was going to run through any tackle that he had a chance to. So that I would say, yeah, he would probably be the hardest hitting for sure.
And the last one, current UAB player on the football team that you would have loved to have had on one of your teams from 2007 to 2010.
All right, so this is a guy I met once, but just being at the facility, being around the team. Isaiah Jacobs is the current, should be starting running back this year. But just like he's one of those guys with his reputation like precedes him. Everybody speak highly of him. The strength coach, everybody. Like I haven't heard one bad word about this kid. He's like the hardest worker. He's the most respected on the field, off the field. They'll say he pick up trash after practice. Like he just one of those guys, just first one in, last one out. And I kind of relate to that. I like that player that really gives it his all and try to do everything the right way. I try to pride myself on trying to be that type of player for the most part. So it would have been great to have that leader on the field with me when I was at UAB. So yeah, keep an eye on Isaiah Jacobs. I think he'll be, whether he continue to play football another 10, 15 years or not, I think he will be a substantial person in whatever community he decides to, land in.
That's fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
Bryant, man, I really appreciate it. I loved all your answers. You gave some great insight, especially from your time when you played, but also now being a part of UAB athletics still to some degree. And glad to see you're doing well in the realty business and in life as well. So I just want to say thank you again. Appreciate you being on.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me.
All right, go Blazers.
Go Blazers.
All right. I want to thank Bryant so much for his time and getting to know him and getting to hear some of his great stories. It was awesome to see him do really well in the Canadian Football League. I know that I turned on a few of his games when he was playing for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and getting to see him play and excel in that league was great. And it's great to see him doing really well here in Birmingham now in the real estate business. So, as he mentioned, hit him up. He might give you some great advice, get you into a new house. Who knows? But I really appreciate Bryant being on, and I hope the Blazer faithful really enjoyed getting to hear from him. And that is going to do it for episode 47. I will have episode 48 coming very soon. I've got a list of great former Blazers coming up, maybe some pretty recent, some bigger names that you hadn't heard in a while, but had a profound impact on the athletic department. We'll see. Until then, be sure to follow my social pages at Dragons Den EFEL. Once again, that's at Dragons Den EFEL on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for game day posts, guest announcements, and other UAB news. Until then, thanks again for listening. Good night, and go Blazers.